Yet again, after a Champions League game, no heart, no passion, no urgency, no movement, too sloppy, just no urgency to get into any positions, disjointed, terrible, terrible passing, and just a complete embarrassment of a performance. What is going on with us at the minute? Away games, just trying to play the ball around like we're 3-0 up. No battling. We're playing against Wolves. They're fighting for their lives. Yes, people say it's a local derby, but it might not be a local derby, but just put some tackles in. Try and actually put some effort in. Stop walking around the pitch like it's a walk in the park. That is no excuse. The Champions League is no excuse for just getting the basics of a football performance wrong. You've got to run, you've got to tackle, you've got to be able to pass the ball 10 yards. That has nothing to do with tiredness. That has nothing to do with fatigue. That is just the basics of football. And that's the fundamentals. That's the first thing you have to do. And against Wolves in particular, who they knew that that's all they had to do. They knew that that's all they could do. Just get the basics right, defend well, and put their bodies on the line, block crosses. We just let them do whatever they want. Absolute embarrassment of a performance. Embarrassing. For about 10 minutes of that game, that's all we did, about 10 minutes of that game. The rest of it, 80 or 85 minutes, we were complete shambles of a performance. So many bad performances out there. Let's just talk through the start of the game. Obviously, Martinez in goal. We had Andres Garcia at right back, Kamara and Konsa at centre back, and Luka Dean at left back. Then we had a midfield with Bohada and Tielemans, then McGinn, Rogers, Ramsey, and Watkins up front. And, you know, I said right from the off, as I said, you've got to do the fundamentals. You've got to do the basics. And yes, we're trying to pass the ball around. Yes, we're trying to control this pace of the game. But we know Wolves are going to be biting into tackles. They're going to be trying to get the crowd up for it because that's what they want to do. They want to get it into a battle. They want to turn it into a fight. And that's exactly what they do. Yes, you can control the pace of the game. Yes, you can pass the ball around to try and quieten the crowd down. But you actually have to move and you actually have to be able to pass it to one of your own teammates. And then when the other team get the ball, you have to actually try and put a tackle in. Wolves obviously scored an early goal, yet again off their first shot on target. And it's Bellegarde, the player who's filling in at central midfield because they've got so many injuries or suspensions at the moment, who scores the goal and beats Emi Martinez at his near post. Watkins gives the ball away, couldn't hold the ball up, and then we just let Wolves just waltz through us. Down the right-hand side, Bellegarde gets the run off Kamara, no one gives him a shout, slides the ball down the right-hand side, and Emi Martinez gets beaten at his near post. Terrible, terrible goalkeeping. He's bouncing on his toes. When he hits the shot, he's up in the air. Stay on your feet. Come out and close the angle down. Poor goalkeeping, and exactly what Wolves wanted. 1-0 up, and they can sit in, keep it tight, and they know they've got big players at the back. They know they've got pace as well to press, and that's exactly what they did. And absolutely fair play to Wolves, but we just couldn't get going. We had nothing in return. Rogers couldn't get on the ball. Ramsey was giving the ball away every single time he got it, and we didn't want to give the ball to the younger players again. We didn't want to give the ball to Bohada. We didn't want to give the ball to Garcia, so we were so predictable yet again. All we had was one or two corners that we messed around with. We tried to play short and then ended up going back to our own halfway line. And the first half might as well have just not even bothered. The issue in the first half as well, Ollie Watkins gets injured, pulls his groin. All he's trying to do is run around up front, getting no service. And when he does, we're not getting any players around him. Like I say, Rogers couldn't get in the game. Ramsey was giving the ball away every single time he got it. And it was Wolves who were looking more and more dangerous on the break. Guedes probably should have had a hat-trick. Martinez after his terrible goalkeeping for the goal, actually kept us in the game because he saved, I think, from Guedes and Cunha. And Guedes put the ball wide as well. And Wolves should have been 3 or 4-0 up at half time. They absolutely schooled us, absolutely totally dominated us in terms of attacking threat. Yes, we might have had possession, but we were awful in that first half. And second half, we couldn't get any worse. And Unai Emery made a quadruple change. Watkins comes off, Digne comes off, Garcia comes off at half time, poor lad, and I forget who else comes off, but it was Ramsey comes off, and Marlon comes on, Onana comes on, Bailey comes on, and Maatsen comes on. And yes, for 10 minutes we started to threaten a little bit more. We were trying to spread the ball a little bit quicker, which is obviously what we needed to do. The space was out wide. The space wasn't in the middle. That's exactly where Wolves were containing us and pressing us. So we tried to get the ball out wide. And yes, we had a couple of threatening opportunities, but still no real shots on target, still nothing against the goalkeeper. Tielemans had an effort from distance. That was probably our first shot on target. And then the moment that turned, the referee, it went to VAR. The linesman gives it offside. We have a free kick, and we actually set it up well. Morgan Rogers runs into an offside position and slightly impedes Semedo. The ball goes down the left-hand side to McGinn. He crosses it, and Marlon taps it in, and we think, yes, 1-1. We're back in it. But the linesman gives it offside. It gets referred to VAR, and they deem that Morgan Rogers is interfering with play against Semedo and stopping him from pressing the ball for John McGinn. And look, lots of people will debate it. People on social media are already saying that's exactly what VAR is for. That's the decision. That's the right decision because he impeded the player closest to the ball. However, he didn't touch him. Whether Semedo is going to get the ball or not is up for debate as well. But ultimately, the goal's disallowed. And Wolves get back into the game. They're still pressing. They're still putting tackles in. Yes, we maybe compete a little bit more, but we're still so sluggish with the ball and just not getting anywhere near behind them. There's a couple of times where players could have overlapped to the players, but we're checking back, trying to play it across the box again. You've got to get behind these teams. If they're doing low blocks as well, get overlap, cut it back, shoot from distance, make them turn turn back. That's what you've got to do instead of trying to pass the ball in front of them all the time. You're not going to engineer these opportunities. Bailey's kept slipping over. We couldn't get Marlon into it enough. Rogers, again, giving the ball away time after time after time. Yes, Onana and Tielemans maybe looked a little bit better. John McGinn couldn't get into the game, too sluggish at times, not seeing the pass quick enough. Just overall, just so bad, so bad. Marlon was probably the only bright spark in that second half, and he did have a couple of opportunities. Gets put down into the left-hand channel, I think, by Rogers. Hits a really good shot saved by the goalkeeper, and then one off on the edge of the box actually cuts inside and strikes it really well, and Sarr makes probably his best save of the night. But ultimately, just nowhere near enough, nowhere near threatening enough, and absolutely just not competing enough in any way, shape or form. I don't even know what else to say about it. And then right at the death, you can't even say Villa are really pressing for the goal because it was just rank bad defending. Wolves clear it. We've got Konsa in a pretty comfortable position against Cunha, lets the ball bounce. Cunha out battles him, runs it into the box. Konsa holds him up then decides not to put a challenge in. By this time, Kamara's back as well, but Cunha smashes the shot through Konsa's legs into the far corner, and thank you very much. Good night, 2-0 Wolves, and thoroughly deserved win for Wolves, and just an absolute embarrassment for Aston Villa, and there's nothing much more I can say about it. Every single player was way below par. I said about the Champions League, we've obviously, I think the only game that we've won after one of these games out of 8 Champions League performances after the games is Wolves at home. That's the only game we've won. We've drawn 2 and I believe lost 5. And that you can't say now, I didn't want to use that as the reason, but it has to be now. It has to be this kind of hangover after the Champions League. But what I will not accept, you can accept maybe tired legs. You can accept a little bit of kind of rustiness or a come down after such a big night, but to not do the basics, to not put challenges in, to not move, to not try and beat a player or to not try and shoot it's just absolutely absolutely shocking. I mean, what did we expect from that game? Someone has to take responsibility. Someone has to try and rally the troops. Someone has to try and get something going. Yes, if you're playing younger players or players that are making their debut, you've got to give them the ball. You've got to try and move the opposition. You can't just keep playing to the same players. You've got to try and make runs outside them, stretch them, make them go into areas that they don't want to go. But we just played everything in front of them, tried to act like we were in control when ultimately we were the ones in the worst position. And look, yes, the players can have a little bit more of a rest now. There's no midweek game. We've got Tottenham next week. I'd expect some changes to be made on there. We've obviously got Marcus Rashford potentially coming in. It looks like that's a done deal. But we really, really, really need defenders, because I don't see anyone coming back anytime soon. Hopefully Tyra Mings. But then have we got other injuries? Matty Cash is now out for 2 to 3 weeks. It was a bit of a baptism of fire for Garcia. Got turned in absolutely inside out. So hopefully that doesn't affect him too much. But look, we ain't finishing anywhere near them Champions League spots, unfortunately. We're way, way, way too inconsistent. And we've got to hope that we get into somewhere near the Europa League, because we're just nowhere near consistent enough for this Premier League. If you can't go to teams like Wolves after the Champions League and win, if you can't beat teams like West Ham, if you can't beat teams like Bournemouth at home, there's absolutely no chance of finishing in the Champions League spots this season. Terrible, terrible performance. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I've had enough. That was just awful, awful, awful performance. So many players way off par. I can't even give a man of the match. Maybe Daniel Marlin, who came on for 45 minutes and was the only bright spark, the only one who was trying to beat players, the only one who was trying to look like he was shooting. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back with match reaction, maybe full match reaction, transfer talk, deadline day special, and talking tactics as well. I don't think there's much to say about that game, to be honest. But stick with the channel. We'll be back next week. Plenty of shows. Thank you for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the game.